On air. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Trade, Commerce, and Tourism Committee. I'm Councilwoman Janice Hahn, and I am privileged to chair this fabulous committee, joined by my council member, Mr. Tom LaBonge, and we're waiting for Mr. Bill Rosendahl, who should be arriving, I'm sure, any moment. Okay, let's begin.
Under item 1, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for council approval a contract with Schindler Elevator Corporation for procurement, upgrades, and installation of elevators, escalators, and moving walkways at Los Angeles International Airport. This contract would allow the Department of Airports to restore and replace 70 units of outdated equipment, constituting priority group 2 of a larger program of updating 285 elevators, escalators, and walkways at LAX. This contract would have a term of 4 years and a total cost of approximately $45 million. Contract provisions include a 1-year warranty on the new equipment and 5 years of extended service and maintenance. The CAO has submitted a report and recommends city approval.
Okay.
Good morning, Intisar Durham, Chief Airports Engineer. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
So, why do we need to replace all these elevators and walkways?
We have done an extensive survey of the equipment we have and at LAX, and they were mostly installed when the terminals were built in the 1960s and 1970s. A few were replaced, what we call our newer equipment were replaced in the 1980s, so obviously they're way past their service life.
Has this always been part of our modernization?
Actually, this has been part of our ongoing program to modernize the airport, to improve its infrastructure, etc.
How does this work exactly? I mean, you do it in phases, and does this inconvenience passengers? And how do we let people know that they can't go on this elevator because it's going down, and not coming back up?
Our aim is to minimize the impacts, and we have just an incredible program, and to explain all of that would be Greg Campbell, our project manager.
Tell us how this works.
Well, because of the number of units and
70.
Yeah, the impact. I mean, overall program-wide of all the units at LAX is the reason we're doing it in phases.
Okay.
And within those phases, we're kind of micro-phasing it, so we lessen
And our phases terminals, or
it kind of spreads out because we don't want to impact one terminal too much.
Okay.
So we just do pieces.
I see.
Everywhere.
And you put signs up to tell people you need to go another way.
Pretty intensive signage program to notify tenants and passengers.
All right. And this contract includes a 1-year warranty and 5 years of service and maintenance. So this equipment has a 25-year lifespan, but you only have 5 years of service and maintenance.
Yeah, we put a 5-year in because the reason we limited it to 5 is because of the bonding capacity. If we tried to go longer, it was too difficult to bond for that out.
So this is a company then that does the service and maintenance?
Yes, it's the actual manufacturer.
Okay. Is there a point after year 5 that internally airport maintenance and operations can learn how to service these and
Yeah, it's very atypical for us to add a service agreement like this. The reason we're doing it here is because this equipment is the first type that we've ever installed at LAX. We're changing the function of the equipment. So it's much more complex. So we're using that 5-year period.
Well, what do you mean you're changing the function?
We're changing the way they're controlled. So they're going to electronic controls instead of solid state. So it's much more complicated to work on. So we're using that 5-year period to train our
own employees. I got it. Okay, good. Mr. LaManche.
Yeah, all I want is this. I've been on elevators in the world where when you walk, there's like a laser beam at the bottom, and then it stops, so it's not running, and it reduces energies. Will these have those?
The escalators.
Escalators, sorry.
Yeah, we actually designed them and are building them to be able to do that. It's up to the state to allow us to do it.
Do we allow them in California yet?
No, we don't.
We don't.
We'll be the first.
Who's the CLA here? Okay, I want a motion to allow these type of escalators, because how often you see them operating all the time? And I've been in places in other parts of the world where they have like a little laser light, and it stops, and then it goes again. So please do me a motion on that, if you would, please. And then we'll get it motioned up to escalate to where we can get it done.
Yeah, briefly on that topic, we did get a circular letter from the Department of Occupation and Safety and Health from the state, and they did allow us to use this function. They rescinded their approval last Thursday, and they're reevaluating it. But
Where are they located, in
Up
Sacramento?
in
Sacramento.
Yeah,
yes.
because I think it would be an
The
issue
state, yeah.
too, because if you think of all the escalators and how much energy we would save
It's large.
when they don't run all the time, and then the cost to operate, and they do it in other parts of the world, I think with success.
Yeah, the only place in the United States that's allowed is at New York Transit right now.
Okay.
They got a variance from the
Would
state.
you write me a memo and tell me that you guys want it and all that stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
good. Just as an aside, I was reading a story in yesterday. I think I was given it. I don't know if it was the LA Weekly or another newspaper that wrote a whole article on, at this time when the city of LA is so cash strapped, why are they investing $40 million in elevators at the airport? So once again, there's this perception out there that somehow this is the city of LA taxpayer dollars. Can you clarify that for us? Where does this money come from to invest in this $45 million?
Actually, we see this $40 million as a great investment and as
But
a
where does
cost
the money?
saving.
Where does the money come from? Does it come from the city of LA?
The money is not coming from the general fund of the city of LA. It is coming through either PFCs, passenger facilities charges that are charged
Right.
on every ticket, or from our airport revenues.
Right.
So again, there is no impact to the general funds with this
Right.
project.
There's so much bad information out there sometimes on newspapers that really don't take the time to have true investigative reporting, and so it's our obligation, I think, to always correct those kinds of things when we see it. Okay.
Yeah, I think with that in mind, that's a great idea that you have, Janice. I think at every terminal they say, how are airports funded?
Yeah.
www.worldairportlax. Go to and tell people that.
Great idea.
Just
Right.
have a little sign
Right.
up. And underneath
Not even
it,
www, just put it out there.
Well, put it out there,
These
but for
elevators
more.
are funded by, your passenger facilities charge.
well,
or
not,
whatever.
not just these elevators, the whole building,
Well,
the
right.
whole operation.
But I mean, it's good when there's a construction project, if
Right.
you're like excuses for the dust kind of a sign. I think at that point you talk to people about how
Really,
it's funded.
that's a great idea. and
Mr.
responsible.
Michelina, what do you think about that? Oh, I bet you will.
I got it.
Please identify yourself for the record.
Mike Molina, External Affairs, and all our passenger communication boards, pardon our dust signage, we have included a line in that says not paid for through City of Los Angeles General Fund or something to that effect.
Right, but paid by,
Paid by airport revenue only,
okay.
something like
That's important.
That's
Make sure
hard to
that
be
line
done,
is big.
And I'll bring pictures of it for you.
Okay,
Let's
good.
think of the right line, because it's an important message.
No, I
Los
agree.
Angeles International Airport is owned by the people of Los Angeles, but all improvements and costs are paid for by the airlines, the passengers,
Right.
and the revenue gained at concessions. or
Your
something.
ticket prices at work.
Right, something like
Because
that.
I think that people find that when they ask passengers if they mind paying a little more, they always say yes if they know exactly that it's going
Where it's
to
going.
improve their experience at that particular airport. It always plays well. So
Very good.
Let's do that.
we'll
So
continue
bring
it.
us a picture of that sign.
I will.
At our next
Yeah.
meeting.
You're going to give me a memo on the escalators. You're going to give me a memo on the written word, so we make sure it says it a little different than a public works thing, a little more airport,
Friendly.
right.
All right. Thank you
deal.
very much. Okay. We will. Is there a recommendation to
A
approve?
strong recommendation.
Okay, and without objection, we'll approve that item. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to hold item 2 on the desk for Councilmember Rosendahl. So let's go to 3. Huh? Oh, and thank you. And we're also continuing item 3. Look at us, we're moving right through the agenda. So now we're to 4.
Under item 4.
Oh, you know what? I do have a card on item 3. Do I need to hear that right before we continue it? Yeah, why don't we hear Dr. Clyde Williams? We're going to continue item 3, but if you'd like to speak on it, we will listen.
Any idea when it'll be back?
Next month. Next meeting.
Next meeting.
Next
Okay.
meeting.
Dr. Clyde
Why don't you
Williams.
put the little
for-
mic up? It's kind of, there you go.
Dr. Clyde Williams, 4115 Barrett Road, El Sereno, Northeast LA. Why do they need a continuance? Everybody knew this was coming. The MOUs were signed, everything was in order, but it was a delay. Delay of only 4 months.
Do you want an answer, or do you want to speak?
It would
She can
be,
give you an answer right now.
okay.
I would just say that there is a superseding amendment to the same sections that is coming down the pipe, and it was suggested to us that we consider them together,
You know,
and
but-
we're waiting for the second transmittal from the board.
But we all knew it was coming. This is one of my problems. I've done, have you ever heard of the Burj Dubai, the world's tallest tower? I helped on that. We had coordination problems, yeah, but we got it done finally. And one of the elements is 4 months. Who's to say at the end of 4 months that they don't get continuations? If it's going to be a time certain, it should be a time certain. Elsewise, the enforcement of it becomes a nightmare. And
Well, there is a temporary board order in play, a temporary
waiver.
ordinance order in place,
Yeah.
and that's good for 60 days, and then they've probably renewed it at least once, and they may have to renew it one more time. But it's already in place from the time the board acted. So it's been being enforced now.
If I can believe it. Our concern is basically, is it going to just continue being continued?
No, we're going to hear it at the next meeting.
We hope not. Okay.
You hope not? We're going to hear it at the next meeting.
Okay, yep, I'll be here.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we will continue that item. So now we're on 4.
Under item 4, the Board of Harbor Commissioners submits for council approval the Sixth Amendment to Preferential Berth Assignment Number 77-34 with Wallenius Wilhelmsen Logistics Vehicle Services America, which previously was known as DAS, Distribution and Auto Service Incorporated. The proposed amendment would provide for the relocation of Wallenius Wilhelmsen from berths 195 to 199 to berth 200A at the port in order to allow the port police to use this space for establishment of a Wilmington substation. The CAO has submitted a report and recommendation for approval.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chief.
Let me introduce myself and my colleagues here. John Holmes, Director of Operation, Chief Ron Boyd of the Port Police, and Mike Galvin from our Real Estate Division.
Morning.
And before we start, I can probably shed some light on the last question the gentleman asked, and that was in developing the MOU with CARB, one of the requirements that CARB asked us was to give a waiver for those people who had applied for funding for trucks while they were waiting for their trucks to come in.
Right.
So that was the essence of this particular tariff item. And then subsequent to that, CARB, in order to be fair, asked us if we would extend that courtesy to people who were privately buying trucks but had trucks on order.
Very
So
good.
what we had was a tariff change, which then was going to be effectively amended by another tariff change, which is the one that's going to follow directly behind this. So the whole crux of this is we made the MOU with CARB in order to free up the 1B money to put about 1,500 brand-new 2007 compliant trucks on the road. However, given the production capabilities of some of the trucking manufacturers, not all the trucks could be on the road by 1 January. So CARB and the port and AQMD got together, and we extended the time for somebody who has a truck on order.
Good.
So if you have a 2007
Okay.
on order and it's not going to come until February, you're still allowed to drive your
Right.
previous truck.
Okay.
And so
That's
the
fair.
second tariff
Okay.
change was for people who were buying trucks on their own.
Right. Thank you for
Okay.
clearing that up.
So, and with
And we'll have that ready by the next meeting.
I believe so. I
Okay.
believe so. I believe you've talked to our legal.
We've heard that the CAO's report is in the mayor's office, and we hope to have that released soon.
Okay, very good.
Okay. There are two items. This item and the following item are all about
Right.
a
We're taking 4 and 5 together.
a
We're taking 4 and 5
maritime
together.
training facility,
Right.
which is being developed at 300 Water Street.
Right.
And I recognize that in many cases, you're at a disadvantage because you, like our board, hear bits and pieces of what we're trying to do there and are asked to approve things but don't necessarily have the big picture. So what I've done today is just real briefly put together a short presentation, which I'll give to you, which has the big picture of the facility
Okay.
and also where the funding is coming from and
Right.
who's doing the work on the
Okay.
facility. So if I can hand one of these. And
Let's get another one for Ms. Rosendahl.
okay, and I promise you I'll go through this very quickly just to give you an idea.
Okay.
And if you, so quickly that if, once you get it, you can turn to the second page.
Okay.
And I know we provided a briefing to this committee about what we were doing with respect to safety and security, and we developed a plan which had 19 initiatives and 3 different areas, and you can see that. But we have either completed or working on all these initiatives. If you go to the next page, which says background, which is, I think, the third
Right.
one, with the picture of the boat on it. When we developed the plan, what we determined is we needed to enhance our maritime capabilities at the port. We are, after all, the largest maritime police department in the United States, and we were trying to develop those capabilities. And so what we wanted to do, once we determined that, is make sure that everybody had training, and more importantly, that all of the people working in the port, whether it's Long Beach PD or LA Port Police or the Coast Guard, all had similar training. So one of the things that we tried to figure out was whether there was a post-training requirements for maritime police officers. And we went up to Sacramento and talked to the people up there, and we've come to find out that, of course, if you're going to drive a motorcycle, you're required to go to 2 weeks post-training. If you're
Post
gonna-
standing for,
Police officer standard and training, I'm sorry.
I knew that,
if
but I
you're
think a
going
lot of people in the
to-
room didn't know
Bet you
that.
a million
If you're going to
I
be
think
$1.5 million.
if you're going to drive
Good.
a patrol car, you need post-training, but we found out that even though I have to send somebody to training for 2 weeks to drive a $50,000 motorcycle,
Right,
to drive a $700,000 boat, there was no post requirement.
right.
So we asked the people in Sacramento if we could work together and develop a maritime
Right.
post-training
Okay, good.
curriculum. So if you go to the next slide that says our approach,
Okay,
what we then did is basically tried to get support from the county and the state and the federal government, locate a facility, develop a program where we used outside funding only, and develop a program that would have tuition fees to pay the ongoing
Okay.
operational costs.
good.
The facility we identified was the one you see in the next set of pictures,
Uh-huh.
which is at 300 Water Street. I'm sure
Right.
you're familiar with it.
I am.
One of the other significant benefits of this project was it also put the Port Police in a much greater presence in Wilmington, which as a community
And
is
near the water.
on the water and in Wilmington, which
I always thought your new building in San Pedro should have been on the water, but no one ever listens to me.
it's hard to drive a boat 5 blocks up
Yeah.
the Palos Verdes Drive. Yes.
Right.
So if you flip to the next one.
Yeah,
This is what the facility will eventually look like. And again, the key here is everything that we're doing with this facility is being paid for by outside funding.
okay. What kind of outside funding?
I'll go into that
Okay.
a little bit later. So if you look at results,
Yes,
the port, we located the site.
Right.
And took project management. County Sheriff's Department developed the curriculum.
great,
State certified the curriculum and provided $4.5 million in funding.
great.
The federal government trained all of the instructors, which were multi-agency, some from Coast Guard, some from Port Police, some from sheriffs,
Right.
some from Long Beach PD, and has pledged $3 million additional dollars in funding.
Right.
Board actions you can go past, but this
Really?
was, there have been a number of actions in order to do this.
Right.
And our efforts to date, if you want to go to the slide that says that, we've been remodeled some of the facilities. We've built a classroom. We've built an armory. We've built new docks. And we have 2 of the modules post-certified and the third one shortly to come. If you look at the photos and all the work,
Good morning.
all the remodeling work was done using city personnel. So if you look at the photos of the facility, you'll see, I'm going too fast for you. Back.
Back to one more.
I'm ahead of you. Oh, yeah.
On the upper left is the armory, which was built. On the right is a brand-new classroom, and on the bottom you see the new docks being built at the facility.
Great.
If you want to go to the next slide, future efforts, we have some things we're going to do. We have some modular classrooms we're going to install. We have a tech support facility and a water training facility which will be installed. And if you will go to the next one, it says Threat Detection Center. This Water Street facility, we're very fortuitous because while they're building the police department, we needed some place for our camera system,
Right.
$20 million camera system, and
Right.
that is located at Water Street. And you see in the upper left-hand corner,
And it will stay there?
it will end up being the backup for
Backup.
the facility at the new
Okay.
police station. This was a $20 million project. It is the most comprehensive maritime camera system in the world.
Right.
And has 351 cameras covering every square inch of the port, including the places like the 22nd Street Park. And also it will include the Wilmington Buffer and the park in that area too. So that's the Threat Detection Center. And the next slide says...
So when somebody comes through there, what do they come out with?
When somebody comes through the threat detection, when they...
This training facility.
When they come through the training facility, they'll come out with a post-certified tactical maritime training. What it is designed to do is take a police department, let's say any California police department, let's say Seal Beach,
Right.
has a boat, and they don't have a training curriculum per se. It
They
can take
come
a
to
police
this.
officer who comes right out of the academy,
Right.
and in 5 weeks, he will be a qualified, entry-level qualified as a maritime police officer. This facility will be open to anybody in the state of California, and it will also, it will be a post-certification for them, so they'll get post-certified in this area, and it will ensure that the California maritime police officers have a consistent training. Also, it'll be, because it's post-certified, we will get reimbursed for the training, which means we'll use those fees to run the facility.
From the state?
From the state, yes.
So you see it as being fully funded?
We see
and
it as
operational.
being, we see it as being fully funded at minimum, and perhaps even more than breaking even, actually.
Making money on it.
So if you want to
Very
turn
good.
to the last couple slides, one is project importance.
Yes?
This is the first of the kind facility in
Yeah.
the country. The only
Right.
other facility similar to that is one in South Carolina, which does principally federal training. It is the only state and federally certified facility because the curriculum was based on the federal curriculum, so the curriculum will be state certified and federally certified. The instructors come from all of the agencies that work in the port. They've all been trained by the federal government. It is fully funded and will continue to be fully funded, self-sustaining, and it has been championed by Department of Homeland Security, state, Port Police, Sheriff's Department, Coast Guard, FBI, and Long Beach PD.
And when do you think it'll be
First class.
first class up and running?
First class should be the summer of this year.
Wow.
Yeah, July.
Great.
Planning July.
Great. So what we're doing today is approving this,
You're-
the kind of the relocation of
In
DOS.
order to do this, there were a
Right.
number of pieces that had
Right.
to move, and one of them was the company that owned the building relocated to someplace in Tennessee, and so the bottom floor was open, and the top floor was being used by a tug company. So we have to move the tug company to get full use of the facility
Okay.
in order to make all the changes. So there's a number of steps. One is obviously to relocate the existing company, then fully, we already occupy the bottom floor of the facility, take over the second floor of the facility, finish the build out of the classrooms and some of the other things. We have to do some peer improvements at the facility, and then start putting people through this.
Okay, and I'll let my colleagues ask a few questions. I mean, obviously, it's a great idea. It's at the port, it's all about land use, and it's all about, kind of a big puzzle out there, moving people, relocating tenants, making sure people have, whatever it is they need to, continue to be competitive. So I think this is a great idea. I think it really positions us, as one of the slides said, as really the premier leader in, this specific idea of security. How is the state of security, would you say, at the port?
I think we're it's as more secure than any port in the United States. I think we've increased the police department.
How many officers do we have?
As of this morning, sworn, you've got 132.
132. I thought at one point we were trying to get like 200.
We were.
Where is that right now?
Well, I think that's in a word, that's on
Hold.
hold. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. We were growing very rapidly, and
Yeah, but we were way under, in my opinion.
we were way under, but we were growing very rapidly, and we were we had a number of projects that were going on. So taking some time to do, because what has happened is we had started a whole bunch of things, but we hadn't
Right.
finished anything, like the Maritime training facility. So this period of time has allowed us to focus.
So we're
on
basically
finishing
not
some things.
hiring more officers at this point.
It's a managed hiring process. We're taking a look at our attrition,
Okay.
trying to make sure we don't degrade below
Yeah.
where we are.
I'll just say for the record, just like in with LAPD, we've taken a pretty hard line here at the city. The mayor certainly has in terms of hiring to attrition. I've always felt like we should really, bump up our officers, the staffing at the Port of Los Angeles. I really think it's still about people, and all this is great, but I think one of the lessons we learned in Israel was it's still about human beings looking out, being out there, paying attention, and kind of catching things that sometimes technology misses. So my personal feeling is that I would like to see us continue to move forward to get us up to that 200 level. I think cargo is picking up, thankfully. We've had a really bad time, but it is picking up, and I would like to see us, especially with all of this. I mean, I think you're going to attract more good people who see their life in law enforcement or their career in law enforcement as being maritime related. So I'm one of those that really feels like we got a new building, we've got this, but to me it's still about the human capital and the officers at the Port Police, particularly for some of the surrounding areas as well. So that's my personal opinion.
As police chief, you'll never get an argument out of me on that, but I can tell you that it's also been time well spent. It's only really been about 3 months where we've had to really manage the hiring process.
Right.
And it's also allowed us an opportunity, though, to make sure we've sharpened our skill sets.
Right.
The director mentioned we've had a lot of people come on board in a very short period of time. And these are some young folks that we're making sure now that they're at
Yeah.
the optimal point of training.
Good.
And then we'll get back into the process.
Good. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then we've been joined by Councilmember
Any
Rosenau.
questions, Mr. Rosendahl?
Yeah, just one quick question. First of all, it's all great. Is there any employment coming out of this, and is it possible to take some city general fund workers and put them over there? Do you have any sense of the kinds of jobs you're looking at?
Well, we have, as I was saying to the councilwoman, we've done all of the modifications to the building, and all the planned modifications of the building are using city workers, including a big portion of the renovation was done by the General Services Department.
Any ongoing needs?
Well, we're continuing to. We have a project that's going to. We'll start classes this summer, but we'll continue to improve the facility. We have heating improvements. We have some other improvements, computer rooms, and all
How
of
many
those.
jobs do you think you're talking about?
I could get back to you, sir. I don't know. We have.
Bottom line would be to integrate whatever we're getting out of the general fund, as many as possible. Your big boss was here yesterday at the council and was talking different numbers about what they do, but this particular project didn't come up, and I'd be curious to see if there's some jobs that we can transfer over in the next 30 to 60 days, which is the critical time frame.
We certainly can take a look at that, and we have last year, well, for more than a year, we've made an effort to actually stop contracts and use city workers. We at one time had a contract to maintain all of our facilities, and we turned that back to the city workers. We had some contract to move some equipment on the water, and we realized that we could do that ourselves. We have a lot of capabilities we could do, and if you look at the photos of some of the things these people have done, like build classrooms and building an armory. These people had never built an armory, and I don't need to tell you it's not just putting walls up. There's a very specific equipment, and we're very proud of the work they can do. Our $3 million security project in the lobby is being done all by.
I mean, my bottom line would be report back from your world about how many potential jobs there are, how many you are doing now, and how we could transition people over there.
Really,
we can do
I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that really is something we're anything that can support these kinds of projects, accounting, clerical, anything that you can absorb to move some of these projects forward even quicker from the general funded positions. That would be such a great thing that I think you could do for people. We don't want to lay people off right now. We just think it's the worst possible time. Looks like we may have to, but the more families we can save, we want to. And if you can absorb any of them, particularly for these projects that you're trying to,
Yeah, when you give the report back, all contracted out labor that you have, whatever it is, let us know what that is, just so we get a better handle on that.
Okay, we can do that.
Mr. Bunch.
And I don't mind if you hire from the hall when you need people in the short term for certain things of the work there, but whatever the case may be, we're all in that situation. If I could ask Ms. Schechter, who hold up this nice contribution, the Port of Los Angeles, your deputy director sent this up to us. Point out where this location is so Mr. Rosendahl and I know Ms. Hahn could put a pin right on it, but where exactly is the location?
300 Water Street is right here.
Right there, good. Good.
This is the WWL facility. That was their headquarters building, and Millennium uses that facility right now. They'll be moving down to right here to base their tug and barge operation over there.
And this is an exclusive area, the public can drive into it.
That's correct, yes.
Right, okay, good, very good. Thank you,
And
Ms.
it's
Schechter.
also co-located with the fire department, which is a perfect fit as
Which,
well.
49?
49th.
Okay, all right, you should have said so. I was looking for that. I would have known. Thank you, Ms. Schechter, and thank you to the Port of Los Angeles. And I called your assistant director, who's now out, but told him thank you. This will be posted by the next meeting.
Okay,
Wall.
so 4 and 5, did we sort of,
So moved.
yeah, okay, is there a motion to approve?
Yep.
Okay, without objection,
No.
we'll approve that, okay. And-
Enthusiastic.
Good, thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
See you, thank you.
Item
Get back
6.
in a couple of weeks?
We will, sir.
Okay.
Do you want to do item 2 or item 6?
Oh, yeah, let's go back to 2, since Bill is
Two
here.
real quickly, if we
Yeah,
could.
okay.
Under item 2, the Board of Airport Commissioners submits for approval the first amendments to the current on-airport rental car co-exclusive concession agreements with 6 rental car companies at LA, Ontario. The first amendment to each of the agreements would extend the term by 5 years to expire on February 28, 2015, subject to earlier termination by the city, and would make various other changes relative to payment of concession fees, compliance with city laws and policies, and transfer of some decision-making authority from the board to the executive director in order to streamline the approval process. The CAO has submitted a report and recommendation for approval.
Good morning again. Mike Molina, External Affairs. We're seeking your approval this morning for a proposed amendment to 6 on-airport rental car agreements at Ontario Airport.
Yeah, my only question is, well, I have a couple of them, but with the declining in passenger traffic, what impact has this had in this whole process?
Sure. As you're aware, our passenger decline in Ontario has been significant, from 6.8 million annual passengers 2 years ago to 4.8 million passengers at the end of 2009. What this amendment does is provides a adjustment to the minimum annual guarantee so that it is it reflects a more fair adjustment for the rental car facilities in light of the decline.
And is everybody cooperating? Are they happy? Is there anybody here from that group that want to say anything?
No, so I'll speak for them, and they're happy.
Do we give any bonus points for, hybrid, electric vehicles?
In this contract? I don't recall if there is. I'll find out and check back.
I think
check
that's
back and
also
get
what
back
we'd
to
like to always try to move forward on. We want to start, having more clean vehicles for people to rent when they come to Los Angeles. And I know we talked about it with the consolidated rental facility at LAX.
That's correct.
But and I don't know where that could fit in a contract, but I think that we want to be known for that. I think in Los Angeles is that somehow we give companies a little extra something for making sure that they have a good fleet of clean air vehicles.
I'll take that back.
Thank
Let
you.
me just ask one other quick question.
Okay, yeah.
If indeed passengers do pick up, which I know it will eventually, is there any adjustment that would come back to us?
Yes. As I understand, the minimum annual guarantee will be adjusted incrementally in each year of this contract so that as passenger traffic increases, so would the MAG.
Very good.
Now, these agreements were originally 5 years, and they ended this February.
Correct.
And so we just decided to add an additional 5 years to the existing ones as opposed to doing a whole new RFP.
That's correct.
What's the rationale for that?
Because of the decline in traffic, we're also adding an option to go out for an RFP in 2 years should we determine that it's necessary.
Okay. Mr. Labange?
I move approval.
Okay. Second?
Yep.
Okay, we'll move that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go back to 6.
You have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Under item 6, consideration of motion Han Labange that the CAO's 3-year plan to fiscal sustainability dated January 29th be amended with respect to the CAO's proposal to reduce and eventually eliminate the city's general fund costs for operating the convention center facility. And the motion recommends in this regard that the council undertake the following actions. Request the CAO to report back on the retention of bond counsel to advise on whether the convention center's tax-exempt bond status allows the city to privatize the management and operations. Request the CAO to describe financial expectations for the privatizing proposal, including whether the city would be seeking upfront financial commitments, capital investments, or revenue-sharing proposals, and refer these reports to this committee for further discussion and recommendations before issuance of a RFP for the management and operations of the convention center.
Okay, here we are again. And we've talked about privatizing the convention center. I mean, it seems like it always comes up. It seems like this proposal is a little more serious now considering the city's financial situation. It's the mayor and the CAO's opinion that now is the time to actually maybe do an RFP to look at privatizing the convention center. So the CAO is recommending a working group, city attorney, CLA, CAO, mayor, to oversee the development and release of an RFP. So we look like this is the closest we've ever actually come to doing this. So I guess for me and this committee, and you've heard this, I'm sure your staff has heard this and maybe feared it or maybe is ready to embrace it. What do we need to do what are the things this working group needs to look at? What are the things that this committee and this council needs to pay attention to if we actually go down the road to privatize the convention center? If we're going to do it, we should try to do it right. We should try to do it that the city obviously benefits from the initial, infusion of, capital. Long term, hopefully we need to look at what makes this ultimately a, maximum run facility. How do we get more conventions here? You guys know it the best, inside and out. And I know I've asked you the question over the years, did you think it was a good idea? And most of the time, you guys all came back and said you didn't think it was that great of an idea. But it looks like these things are more serious now. We're actually looking at doing it. What do we need to pay attention to? What are the pitfalls? What should this working group be doing to develop this RFP? You only get back what you asked for. So how should this look to us? And I can hear from everybody on that question.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Chair, I'm joined here also by Assistant General Manager Philip Hill and the President of our Commission, Christina Noonan, and the Vice President of our Commission, Archie Purvis. And during the conversation here, I'm sure they would like to opine on this issue. 4 years ago, when I was blessed with the opportunity to run the convention center, I came before your committee a few times. One of the questions that was raised by yourself and Councilmember Rosenthal was, what can we do to run the convention center in the black? What is it that we can do in terms of a time frame? The response back that was made was within 2 years we will be run operationally in the black. Mm-hmm. We've achieved that in the first year. We've run in the black in the past 4 years. Though that indication was made also by the mayor when he came before the council and by the CAO in his report. In terms of the governance structure of the convention center, I have actually been a proponent of a need to look at the governance structure of the convention center. The current governance model that we have is reminiscent of the days that this place was the municipal auditorium. It has not changed from there, and all the area around us has changed. The reasons for my support of governance change, and I'll go, or governance study, and I'll go into that in a bit more detail, is to make convention center more flexible and more nimble in terms of being able to respond to the business needs, whether it's trade, business tourism, or just show business. And again, yesterday we was the unveiling and the ribbon cutting for the Marriott downtown, which was extremely important for us. Yeah. In addition, two other items that have been of extreme importance to this committee is the degree of relationship and partnerships that we have with LA Live. Those have been solidified. The results of that is now, Grammys is held at Staples Center. The Grammys party and pre-telecast is at the Convention Center. Emmys is held at Nokia. The Governor's Ball is held at the Convention Center. NBA All-Star 2011 is going to be at the Staples Center. All the events are going to be at the Convention Center. So we have been aggressively pursuing various initiatives to increase the business of the Convention Center. In terms of governance of the Convention Centers, in the nation, there's a spectrum of alternatives. One is publicly managed, very similar to what we have here. Anaheim and Phoenix have the same model. It's managed by city. For the most part, 99% of the convention centers are managed by authorities that are set up by cities, counties, or states. Among the privately managed convention center in our, competitive set, or in our size, basically being a gateway city, there is one convention center, and I think Philip spoke about it before council. It is the San Francisco Convention Center, which is run on a management fee contract, where the city and county of San Francisco actually pay $28 million to SMG to run that facility. In addition, they pay for the custodial and security services. My proposal.
And what do they get back?
Nothing. What they get back is economic impact, basically.
Of conventions.
Okay. So, levity is always good. So my suggestion has been to pay me $14 million. I'll run it much better. But besides that, governance change is going to take a lot of actually forms. Without a doubt, the expert in that field and the group of experts that are before you right now can determine what will work best for Los Angeles. And we are actually very encouraged by the methodological approach of the motion that was put together. At this point in time, we are not sure as to what the expectations are. We are going to identify those expectations.
Okay. In this working group?
In this working group.
Okay.
There are going to be bond covenants and bond councils and all of that that is outside the expertise of any one of us, and CAO has recommended that we hire outside bond counsel. They hire outside bond counsel to look at what are the bond covenants in the CAO's report. There is an indication, though, that there is a private use capacity issue with the bonds, and that private use capacity has been reached. So we really need to come back with an opinion from the bond council. And then again, look at what the expectations are. If you're asking me as a business person running, again, blessed with the opportunity to work at the convention center, we need more flexibility to run the business of the convention center. This committee has been extremely supportive of various initiatives.
Right.
However,
Seems like
they
some
have
of them are
not
still not happening.
Much of it has not been happening.
Yeah, I was very disturbed to hear that your flexible pricing agreement is stuck in the city attorney's office?
We are awaiting a ordinance to be drawn by the city attorney.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
To be forwarded. There are a few initiatives that we've been talking about. And again, just imagine this. The convention center was the only convention center in the nation last year to end the year in the midst of the economic meltdown in the black.
That's
the crown jewel of convention centers in this nation is Chicago McCormick Place. The Wall Street Journal reported that McCormick Place lost $3 million from operations last year. They'll lose $22 million.
So it sounds like you're not really convinced that this is the way we should go. You're operating in the black. I think. Are there ways you still think that the city we could save the city money?
CAO is actually extremely responsive to my discussion with him when I spoke about the need for governance change, and I think that and I have been fortunate to also speak with the mayor on this issue, and I think everybody understands we need governance change. If it takes 14 months to move a flexible demand-based pricing forward because of city's process. And again, I've been working with the city for some time. Then there needs to be fundamental change. What form that change is going to take is going to be it's not going to be my decision, nor it would be the CEO's decision. It's going to be a decision of the mayor and council, and that's beyond my authority. I can only opine on.
So basically, you would say, I have ideas. I have ideas that we can make more money, we can save money, but the fact of the matter is, in the current process of the city, it's been very difficult to do that. Okay.
What do you mean by governance change?
Governance change. The administrative code and the charter of the city of Los Angeles sets forth basically a structure to running departments, including the convention center departments. It does not account for the fact that the Los Angeles Convention Center is the only competitive business that this city runs. Airport, harbor, and DWP are, in essence, monopolies in terms of providing services. If you live in the city, you have to buy your power from DWP. The only organization that is council-controlled, non-proprietary, that we actually run a business is the Los Angeles Convention Center. The governance of the convention center, the bureaucracy that we have to go through on a day-by-day basis is counterproductive to running a business. And so when I talk about governance change, and there was a benchmarking study that was completed last year, we actually worked with the Commission and Visitors Bureau, and we put out a benchmarking study. It says that even within the municipally controlled convention centers, Anaheim and San Diego, Anaheim and Phoenix, our set of rules are the most archaic of any convention center in the nation. So when I talk about governance change, what I'm saying is the current model is not sustainable, and we need to change the model.
But you think there are things that we can enact currently that would
Madam Chair,
make it sustainable?
No, Madam Chair, I think what is important to realize is that if we look at the extreme point of this spectrum, privatization, there is going to be a time that it's going to take to do all these studies.
Right.
Meanwhile, we have a business to run.
Right.
I have, and I'm going to share this with you because this issue has come before a public forum.
Right.
I have clients right now
Right.
that want to sign contracts with us,
Right.
but they're saying that this issue of governance change is one that is so fluid that they're uneasy in terms of doing contracts. Now, imagine all
Will you
the...
give me an example of that? You're
Certainly.
around the issue. I just don't know what you mean by governance change in the bureaucracy. Specifically, what are you talking about?
Basically, one of the forms that I think midway that we are going to be looking at, again, the final decision is going to be mayor and councils in terms of, whether it's going to be privately managed or
Right.
publicly managed or what have you. What will work for us at the convention center is a structure that allows the convention center the flexibility to set pricing based on market demands. That needs a governance change through ordinance.
We have approved.
I understand,
Which the
Councilwoman.
council has approved.
I understand, but again, I'm the ideal with facts is where
Right.
we are right now.
So if the city attorney is listening, get that ordinance out today.
We have spoken.
Yes, Nooch, if you were listening.
Yeah.
So another item is incentive pay for our salespeople. We are the
Right.
only sales organization in
Right.
the world we don't incentivize our salespeople.
Now, is that an ordinance that we need to?
That it has to go through EERC. It's under review at the CAO's office.
Okay.
We are currently furloughing our salespeople.
Right.
Unconscionable. You cannot furlough. This just does not. So when we talk about governance change,
Right.
is a series of administrative changes that will allow us to do the things that we need to do.
To be more autonomous. You want to be more autonomous.
Information,
We-
so we can make those governance changes.
Certainly.
For me to hear that somebody wants to sign a contract with us and go there and is nervous about it, I'd like to know why.
Yeah.
And just give us the bullet points of change, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, we've got it. Marketing incentive, provide sales staffs with sales commission, exempt staff from furloughs, enable convention center to move funds between accounts as long as total budget adopted is not altered, and phase out discounting LACC rental for citywide events and direct it to cover related costs and establish a reserve fund.
I think a perfect point is the work that the Bureau and the Convention Center have done in regards, this is a success story, in regards, for example, for discounting. The Convention and Visitors Bureau is currently incentivizing their salespeople not to discount, which is exactly what we were looking for.
Right.
So that phasing out is taking hold because, we have a different product now than we did after 1993 riots.
Just hear from your chairman
Yes.
and vice
Thanks.
chair and the
Right.
CAO.
Let me just ask, and again, we're trying to figure out how to shave some costs, obviously, off the city's general fund. Pensions are an issue.
Yes.
Your employees are specially funded, but their pensions are not. Has there ever been an attempt to talk about maybe some contributions towards their pensions?
This is what I will commit to you.
Okay.
Give us the tools that are necessary,
Uh-huh.
and I'll give you a 5-year plan
Right.
that
Okay.
at the 5th year, 100% of our pension costs will be covered.
Okay.
But we need to have the tools.
Okay. All right.
Diana Mangiolu, Office of the CAO. Just wanted to give the committee a little bit of background in how we developed the proposal and what are some of the things that we looked at, and what are some of the things that we plan on doing as we move forward. First thing we looked at is we looked at what our outstanding general fund costs are.
Right.
General fund revenues, special fund revenues.
Right.
We've looked at different issues, including labor, capital, and debt service.
So what does this convention center cost our general fund?
Well, the department currently receives sufficient revenues, special fund revenues, to cover all of its labor and expenses.
Right.
The related cost is covered by the general fund, and if we're just doing pensions and health care, based on the level of employees that they have now, it's about $3.4 million. We have an annual debt service cost of about $46 million.
And that comes out of the general fund?
That comes out of the general fund.
So basically 50, so about 50 million?
Right. And then in addition to that, if the general fund is able to, the general fund tries to reinvest into the facility. This year, it made an attempt to it did appropriate $850,000 in capital. At the same time, this is a 30-year-old facility. It's a facility that's in great need of repair and maintenance. And part of the reason why we were asked to develop this proposal is because the city hasn't been able to give the department the resources that it needs to maximize the asset. The city hasn't had the
Sounds like
resources
listening to the general manager, though, there's a bunch of things that we've been unable, they didn't sound like they cost us a dime, but would make them much more flexible, much more autonomous, much more able to maximize their assets. Has the CAO looked at the bullet points that they have been asking for to make them a more efficiently run convention center?
We have, and I'm happy to address them right now. In terms of the governance structure,
right.
What we propose to do as part of this working group is to, first of all, look to survey what other convention centers do. What are their square footage? What's their debt service? What's their general fund costs? And then identify the issues that are unique to the convention center. We will be working with our financial analysts in helping us develop some sort of an agreement that would be that if we were to contract out operations, we would work with financial advisors to address all of those issues.
No, but have you looked at things like flexible pricing, exempt staff from furloughs, allow them to move funds between accounts, phase out discounting rental for citywide events? Those things have you looked at?
We have. With regards to phasing out discounting, basically what our understanding of what the department is requesting is currently the department, there's the Convention and Visitors Bureau, who performs part of the marketing and sales for nationwide conventions, use the discounting policy as a tool to book conventions, to bring conventions to LA. And so what happens is that although the discount is offered, what happens is that it impacts the department's special fund revenue. So they receive a decrease, let's say a discount on the hall rental they would receive. But on the other hand, the reason why council implemented this policy was because that it saw that it was actually more beneficial to bring these types of conventions to LA, because it helps generate different types of taxes, including sales and transit occupancy tax, and it helps bring visitors to Los Angeles. So if we were to eliminate the discount policy, then we would essentially be eliminating that.
This is a discount of rental for citywide events.
And the other thing is that if we let's say keep the policy, I think what the department is looking for is to be reimbursed for the discounts that they are otherwise, or the revenue that they are otherwise.
Well, again, these are things that, much to be discussed here, but those are the kind of things that this working group will certainly look at. I guess the point of the general manager is, while we go through this RFP process, if on the other end we actually do make a decision to put it on the street, he's feeling like there are things we can do right now to maximize our assets and increase the revenue.
Councilmember, we have worked with the department and will continue to work with the department in addressing those issues. We've worked closely in the flexible demand pricing policy, and we're hoping that an ordinance will soon be.
Have you been following that, tracking that, and beating down the door of the city attorney?
Yes, we have. I mean, there is a deadline for city attorney to report back, so they will be submitting an ordinance. But as far as the instruction that our office has received from the mayor and the council, it was to look at different options and to prepare a request for proposal in terms of private operations.
Right. Do you think we can go down two tracks at the same time, preparing for an RFP and currently changing the governance structure so that we can maximize conventions in the meantime? Is that possible?
Well, by contracting out operations, you're in a way changing governance structure because essentially you would be bringing in a
But that may
private-
take a while.
It will. It's not
So
gonna
I think
happen
what we're
in a
asking is,
couple of
do you think
months.
there are changes that can be made now?
Well, the other thing that we had proposed as part of our proposal was to explore the idea of having the Convention and Visitors Bureau contract out perform all of the marketing and sales duties, because those two functions are now performed by both the Convention Center and the Visitors Bureau. The Visitors Bureau has expressed interest in doing this.
You want to speak to Visitor Bureau too, should come up to the table if they want.
Yeah, I think on that issue.
Yeah, we are
yeah,
running
I
out of
think
time.
we have the
Oh,
president and the.
Let's
Thank you.
hear from.
Good morning.
Yeah, we got like 9 minutes.
Okay, well, then I'll be brief. Archie Purvis, I'm the Vice President of the LA Commission, and we have with us today Christina Noonan, who is the President of the Commission. We're here to support your motion. We think it's an excellent motion, and also as well as express our concern that the discussion, the notion of privatization, we are not in any way expressing objection to it, but it's premature in our judgment. You, meaning the council, CAO, et cetera, press, have been creating an environment that almost makes it a fait accompli that the convention center is going to go private.
Yeah.
The result is, and I can't name a council member, the particular client or exhibitor publicly, but we've had some difficulty where they're coming to us and saying, wait a minute, you guys are in transition, management's going to change, and we're not sure whether we're going to be happy with the people that are going to come on board. So that's creating an immediate problem of those people we currently have under contract. I, as a former sales executive, can tell you that this is wonderful if I were a competitor, because if I had information that from the press, from public forum, and I'm calling on a particular exhibitor, and I'm whispering to them, well, it's not me. You read this. Los Angeles is in turmoil, is in flux. They're changing. They're in transition, et cetera. My point is that I think there's just a little too much, in my judgment, as a commissioner and as a citizen with some knowledge, talk about privatization. It's premature. Your proposal, your amendment, your motion, I believe, brings it down to reality. Let's take a look at this first. Let's do an analysis. Let's before we really go forward and start talking about privatization. Is this really the direction we want to go to? So we're here today to support your motion, express some concern. It's been 2 years since I was before you, Madam Chair, and other council members. It's been a wonderful 2-year experience, except I am, and I will speak for me personally, I'm very frustrated because I am an action person. Our president is an action person. And what you're seeing here about the delays, I understand the political process, but we're talking about money.
Right.
We're talking about dollars.
Right.
And every day that we cannot get these particular proposals addressed, approved, and implemented, our dollars being lost to the city.
Right. And let me just ask the CAO, do you see this as moving down the track for privatization, or is there room to still study the idea of whether or not it's a good idea to privatize?
Well,
or would it be better to implement some of these governance changes to achieve the maximum benefit of the convention center?
As part of the efforts to
quick answer,
as part of the efforts to look into
Yes.
privatization, we are definitely going to look at the different options. We're going to lay out what it
on whether or
could
not
look
it
like.
even makes sense to privatize.
Exactly.
Okay, good.
And then report back to committee on it.
Perfect. Do you want to say something, Madam President?
Thank you. Well, as an Angelino who loves her city, I'm all for finding creative solutions to addressing our budget crisis. By the same token,
Name for the record?
I'm sorry, Christina Noonan, President of the Department Commission for the Convention Center. However, I do think it's very important to take this opportunity to address the amazing accomplishments that Mr. Abbasi and his team have completed, given how archaic the governance structure is. In addition to being in the black for the past 4 years, our convention center was the first existing convention center to be LEED certified, which was a huge accolade to the city of Los Angeles. We've also increased our educational programs and our community outreach during a much-needed time. And I don't know if you get copies of all of the letters that are received by Mr. Abbasi and his team, but as commissioners, we get letters at least 2 to 3 every month from clients just saying the reason we come back is because we can rely on you. And I'll give a quick example of that because I know we're running short on time. But a few years ago, one of the docking doors could not open, and this was a very expensive issue to fix. Mr. Abbasi could not get approval because of the process that was required, and he used his own credit card to pay this huge amount to get this thing fixed for his client. And so because of those kind of gestures, we have a lot of loyal clientele that they are concerned about a potential new direction. And I think we have to think not only long-term, but we also need to think short-term as to how making these issues so public and building this kind of concern is going to affect the city of Los Angeles.
Right. We ought to be able to act like we've privatized the convention center with our own employees who can make decisions and react and make decisions that make it. That's what we ought to do because I'm sure part of the attraction of privatization is somebody who can make decisions quickly, can run it like they want to run it, be the most efficient, and yet we've got all of our employees pretty much handcuffed in terms of how that's a good story.
And may I just say one more thing? As Mr. Abbasi stated, his sales team, they don't even have financial incentives to perform.
Right.
However, given that limitation, his team has increased their sales by 400% during the past 4 years.
Right.
And currently, they're responsible for most of the revenue that the convention center gets to maintain the facility.
Right.
So I think that's also a
Right.
huge testament to
Right.
the leadership that's been shown
Right.
there.
So maybe what would make sense, and in this working group, we look at maybe working on a different relationship between you and the city, everything from debt service to pensions to maybe we look at a way to make you more productive, more efficient, and reduce some of the burden on the general fund. And I feel like we could work out some sort of a formula that makes sense for everybody. But we encourage you to work that in your working group.
And just to reiterate on my commitment in terms of pension and being able to cover what we can in the 5-year plan.
Great travel show this weekend. Came back from Long Beach 2 years ago.
Thank you, Councilman.
Was involved with that as well. Great art show this last month. Came from all over the country tremendously on that. I think you look at everything. You got great commissioners who are passionate, but we got to keep the speed of the action up with the commissioners because you lose the motivation, and we have to talk to our city attorney to do this. The thing I would say when I went there, when I went in the building, I felt some warmth. Outside the building, hardscape. We need to landscape a little more, even if it's temporary, just to make it a place. I'm a fan of the
we've got
convention
some
center.
landscapers out there that are looking for more work.
Right.
So
Let me ask a question. What do you charge for parking on a Laker game?
$20.
And what do they charge across the street? Same. Okay, good. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Yeah,
See you later.
there's two big
Yeah.
issues, obviously. One
Yeah.
is the $50 million that comes out of the general fund. We're
Okay.
burdened.
Yeah.
We can't handle it. That's our problem.
No, he's already spoken.
And on that $50 million, $46 million is debt service, correct? How do we get rid of that? What do we need to do?
That's why we need the expertise of bond counsel to say if it's doable or not. Every other city in the nation, the debt service is actually carried by cities, counties, or states in any model. And I pointed out the San Francisco model. Really, it's a bond issue, and I don't have the expertise, nor does anybody within our operations. And that's why one of the items on the
What about
motion
your other
says-
your Convention Center Authority Commission? Are they looking at things like our bonds and
we get advice from-
refinancing our bonds? or-
Actually, we have refinanced bonds in the past few years,
Yeah.
and we get advice from the Office of the
Right.
CAO and the bond
Right.
group there. We would be better positioned to respond to that once we have the bond
Right.
analysis
Right.
done, Councilman.
Do you want to say anything?
Just on
Who are you for the
I'm
record?
Michael Krause. I'm Senior Vice President of Sales for the Visitor and Convention Bureau. The only point of clarity is as far as convention centers go across the country, one point
Right.
that was made on the discount policy, just to clarify that, the discount policy would put us if we remove that, would put us at a serious selling disadvantage. And I want to point out that convention sales are up dramatically as a result of that benefit. And in this environment, that would be a mistake.
Okay, well, those are things you
but
guys
we
can
support
debate.
we support whatever the convention center requires in this investigation to evaluate the benefits
Right.
or disadvantages of privatization.
Right.
And I do agree he needs help in flexibility.
Right.
I mean, our ability to provide discount and his inability to provide discount is a great example
Right.
of the imbalance.
Right. Well, let me just say this. We think you all are doing a terrific job, and you've got great stories. We don't see the letters, but I'll tell you, I know from this committee that you've done an excellent job. Everything we've sort of asked you to do, you've gone beyond and risen to the occasion. And again, the fact that we're operating in the black is significant for this city. But there is a general fund issue, and we're just all trying to figure out, how do we begin to reduce the strain on the general fund in any way possible? Here's what I'd like to do. We're adopting this motion to ask this working group to kind of look at all these issues, study all these issues. But I also like for this working group to specifically study these short-term governance proposals. And that can be, and some of them should be implemented immediately, and then report back to this committee for, like a recommendation of these short-term proposals. Which ones should we really work to implement immediately, and which ones shouldn't we? That's what I'd like. I want to get us on the same track. Let's do some stuff now to improve it. And no one knows better than all of you who are in there. You're living it. You're breathing it. You know what you need to make this more efficient. Let's, cut the bureaucratic red tape and, act like we're running a business. And that's what we should do, and that's what we all want to do. So that's what I would like to do.
And I'll support her on that motion. But here's the question. First question is, it's $50 million from the general fund, and so you're not in the black because part of the real black, is getting rid of that debt, right?
I'll respond to that in your request for information.
Okay.
The debt is actually supported by the transit occupancy tax, which was raised to support the tax.
Okay, the bottom line is we want to get rid of that debt.
Yes.
Because that is costing the general treasury, and we have to deal with that's question one. Question
Right.
two, which is not my question, is if we sold it and put it on the block, how much would we get out of it?
I mean, we have to do a real estate appraisal.
Understand, what's the high and low on that?
We'd basically have to find somebody to be able to defease the $480 million outstanding debt that we have on the facility.
right.
And because we saw that the likelihood of that happening was probably not that great,
Yeah.
our proposal is instead based on looking at privatizing operations.
And that's because of the $500 million debt.
Right.
Yes.
Nobody wants to take that on.
Right. And so do you have a figure in mind about that operations, what we could get out of that?
Well, our goal would be to basically have whoever comes in not only bring in the level of revenue that the department is currently bringing in, but also help bring in additional revenue to reinvest into the facility and reduce.
And how would they
general
bring
fund
in
costs.
additional revenue? Because they would be free from some of this bureaucratic.
Some of the concern is the fact that the department doesn't have the flexibility that it needs to operate as a private entity.
Well, wouldn't it be better just to make that happen?
And it ideally, yes, but there's challenges to that. And we have looked at the governance, the different bullet
You're
points.
just kind of replacing people with different people.
There's civil service rules. There's hiring freeze. And the fact that there's general fund costs associated with operating the facility.
Right. But we would still keep the debt, and we would still keep, but we wouldn't have the pensions. Is that what you're saying? We're laying off all these people?
We wouldn't have pensions. The goal would be to generate enough revenue to reinvest into the facility, because right now
Which,
that's
by the
not
way, I
happening.
think that's their goal now.
It
Their
is.
goal is to get more revenue. In fact, the matter is, they have done it even under some of these restraints. So it seems to me, you know, if we're not selling off the facility, you're just really bringing in a private company to do what they're doing, and they're going to be able to make all the decisions that these guys have been begging us to give them the flexibility to make. So that seems really sad. To me, that's a sad proposal.
Unfortunately.
Why don't we got to go, but why don't we put all of our efforts into releasing them to their full potential, and at least give them a shot to run it the way they think it should be run, with people who know it, who are good, loyal city employees, which might be the reason people keep coming back.
Yeah, and Ms. Hahn, I totally agree with you on that, and this motion you put through is
Yes.
brilliant. We need to move on it.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is, if nobody's going to buy this convention center if they got a $500 million worth of debt to deal with. That's the
Right.
big issue here, right?
Right.
Okay, so let us
Set my
streamline it,
people
let's make
free.
it work, and let's get going.
Let them do what they want to
Thank
do.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, this item is in council tomorrow morning at 10 a.m.
Oh, well, thank you for letting us know that. Okay, bye. All right, this meeting is adjourned.